dare hear stories that will freeze your blood, where shadows watch and the unknown waits. Every sound, every step could be your last. Unknown presence. Horror movie style font, misty glow, subtle flicker, shadows moving behind letters. I should have trusted my gut when I saw the warning carved into that tree. It was October 2023, and I'd been planning this solo backpacking trip through the Cherokee National Forest for months. 3 days, 2 nights, a well-marked trail I'd hiked twice before. I'm not reckless. I had my GPS, satellite communicator, bear spray, the works. I told my brother exactly where I'd be. I did everything right. The first day was perfect, almost too perfect. I started at the Citico Creek trailhead around 9 in the morning. The autumn colors were peak, that brilliant gold and crimson you only get in the Appalachians. The air smelled like wood smoke and damp leaves. I passed 2 other hikers heading out around noon, a couple in their 50s. We exchanged the usual trail pleasantries. They mentioned they'd cut their trip short. "Trail just feels off today," the woman said, adjusting her pack straps. Her husband laughed it off, but I noticed he didn't disagree. I asked what she meant, but she just shook her head and said to be careful. At the time, I figured they'd maybe heard a bear or something spooked them. I waved them off and kept going. That was the last time I saw another person. Around mile 4, I noticed the trail markers were wrong. Not missing, wrong. Someone had taken bright orange tape and wrapped it around trees about 30 feet off the actual path, leading deeper into the woods. I'd seen territorial local hunters do petty stuff before, trying to confuse tourists, so I ignored it and stuck to my map. But then I saw the first carving. It was about chest height on a massive oak, fresh enough that sap was still weeping from the cuts. Not words exactly, more like symbols. Circles within circles, with lines radiating out like a child's drawing of the sun. And beneath it, carved deep, "Turn back." I stopped, looked around. The forest had gone quiet in that way that makes your skin prickle. No birds, no wind, just that heavy, waiting silence. I should have listened, but I'm stubborn, and I'd driven 4 hours to get here. I convinced myself it was just local kids trying to seem edgy, or maybe some Blair Witch Project wannabe prank. I took a picture of it and moved on. By the time I reached my planned campsite at Indian Flats, the sun was already starting to dip. The clearing was exactly as I remembered, a small meadow beside the creek, room for a few tents, a stone fire ring someone had built years ago. I set up camp efficiently, filtered water, started a small fire. Normal. Everything normal. Except the footprints. I noticed them when I went to hang my bear bag. Bare footprints in the soft mud near the creek, but wrong. The toes were too long, spread too far apart. And they were huge, easily size 14 or 15. They circled my campsite in a wide arc, like someone had walked around and around I was setting up, but I hadn't heard anyone. I'm not easily scared. I grew up in these mountains, but something about those prints made my stomach drop. I checked my satellite communicator full signal. I could call for help if I needed to. That thought calmed me down enough to eat dinner, though I kept the bear spray on my lap. As darkness fell completely, I heard it for the first time. A whistle, not a bird call or wind through the trees. A human whistle, the kind you'd use to get someone's attention. 3 short bursts, coming from the tree line about 50 yards out. I grabbed my headlamp and shined it toward the sound. Nothing, just trees and darkness, and the reflection of eyes, probably a raccoon or deer. "Hello," I called out, feeling foolish. The whistle answered. Same 3 bursts, but from a different direction now, off to my left, then to my right, then behind me. My fire crackled and popped. I spun around, trying to track the sound, but it kept moving, circling me just like those footprints had circled my camp. I wasn't alone out here. Someone was playing games. "This isn't funny," I shouted into the dark. The whistling stopped. For maybe 20 minutes, nothing. Just the fire and my own breathing, and the absolute certainty that something was watching me. I sat with my back to a tree, bear spray in one hand, knife in the other, feeling ridiculous and terrified in equal measure. Then I heard footsteps, not trying to be quiet. Heavy, deliberate steps crunching through the underbrush, coming closer. I pointed my headlamp toward the sound and saw nothing. The footsteps stopped the moment my light hit the trees. "I have a weapon," I called out, adding how my voice shook. "And I've already contacted people. They know exactly where I am." A lie. I hadn't used my communicator. Didn't want to seem paranoid. Something laughed. I don't know how else to describe it. Not quite human, but not animal either. A low, rattling sound that made my teeth ache. It came from directly behind my tent, maybe 10 feet away. I whipped around, light blazing, and caught a glimpse of something pale moving behind the trees. Tall, very tall, there and gone in an instant. That's when I noticed the smell. Rot, like roadkill left in the summer sun, thick and cloying. It rolled over my campsite in a wave, so strong I gagged. I pressed my sleeve against my nose and mouth, eyes watering. The footsteps started again, packing back and forth just beyond my firelight. I could track them by sound, 7 steps one way, pause, 7 steps back. Patient, methodical, testing me. I made a decision. I grabbed my pack, kicked dirt over my fire, and got the hell out of that clearing. The moon was nearly full, which was the only reason I could see the trail at all. I moved as fast as I dared, following the creek back the way I'd come, expecting any second to hear those footsteps behind me. I hiked for 2 straight hours in the dark before I felt safe enough to stop. There was a small cave, really just an overhang in the rock face, about 6 feet deep. I wedged myself into the back of it, pack back in front of me as a barrier and waited for dawn. That's where I am now, writing this on my phone to stay awake, because I can't shake the feeling that if I fall asleep, I won't wake up. About an hour ago, I heard the whistling again, closer this time, and 20 minutes ago, I found something that makes my hands shake even now. Someone, something, had left a gift at the mouth of my little cave while I was looking at my phone. A neat pile of small bones. Bird bones, I think, arranged in that same circular pattern from the tree. I didn't hear them approach. I didn't hear anything at all. The sun came up around 7, and I've never been so grateful to see daylight in my life. I waited until the forest was fully lit before I moved, checking every shadow, every tree. The bone circle was still there. Real, not some exhaustion-induced hallucination. I used a stick to scatter it, then immediately regretted touching it at all, like I'd just acknowledged some kind of offering. My plan was simple: get back to the trailhead as fast as possible. It was roughly 8 miles. I could do that in 4 hours, maybe 3 if I pushed hard. I'd skip filtering water, ration what I had, just move. I made it maybe half a mile before I realized something was wrong with the trail. The markers were gone. All of them. Not the fake orange tape from yesterday. The official Forest Service blazes that had been painted on trees for decades. Someone had covered them, stripped bark over every single one, or hacked the marked section clean off the trunk. I pulled out my GPS. The device showed me exactly where I was, and the trail should have been right under my feet. But when I looked around, there were 3 different paths leading away from where I stood, none of them matching my map. "Okay," I said out loud, just to hear a human voice. "Okay, this is fine. Just follow the creek. Water always leads out of the mountains, eventually." Basic survival logic. I started downstream, pushing through underbrush that shouldn't have been there, climbing over fallen logs I didn't remember from the hike in. The forest felt wrong in the daylight too. The trees were too close together, pressing in, and still no birds, no squirrels, nothing. After an hour, I found another carving. This one was worse. Crude figures etched into a massive hemlock, stick people holding hands in a circle, and in the center, something with antlers or horns. The lines were jagged, angry, cut deep into the heartwood. Below it, in dripping red paint that couldn't have been more than a day old, "It sees you." My satellite communicator buzzed in my pocket. I yanked it out, hands shaking. A message from my brother. "Everything good. Haven't heard from you." I typed back quickly. "Something wrong. Trail markers gone. Being followed. Send." The device died mid-word. Just shut off completely. I pressed every button, nothing. The battery had been full that morning. Full. I wanted to scream. Instead, I shoved it back in my pack and kept moving, faster now, not caring about the noise I made crashing through the brush. That's when I heard my own voice. "Help me." coming from somewhere ahead, past a thick stand of laurel. My voice, my exact voice, with that same shake of fear I'd had last night. "Please, someone help me." I stopped dead. My mouth went dry. "No," I whispered. "Help me," louder now, more desperate. "I'm hurt, please." It was mimicking me, using my voice to what? Lure someone? Or just to fuck with my head? I changed direction immediately, angling away from the sound, moving perpendicular to the creek. I didn't care anymore about following water. I just needed distance. For the next 3 hours, I pushed through some of the densest forest I've ever seen. My arms were covered in scratches, my shirt torn. I finished my last water an hour ago, but I kept moving because behind me, occasionally, I'd hear it, sometimes whistling, sometimes laughing, sometimes calling out in my voice or voices I didn't recognize. And once, just once, I heard it say my actual name. The sun was starting to dip again when I stumbled into a clearing I definitely hadn't seen before. There were 4 tents set up in a rough circle. Old tents covered in mildew and fallen leaves. A dead fire pit in the center, and around the perimeter, hanging from branches. I'm looking at them right now, and my brain still doesn't want to process what I'm seeing. Dozens of ID cards, driver's licenses threaded on fishing line, swaying in the breeze. I recognized 2 faces from missing person posters I'd seen online while researching the area. A girl from Tennessee who vanished in 2019. A man from Virginia disappeared in 2021. There are more, so many more. I grabbed 3 licenses, shoved them in my pocket as evidence, and ran. I don't know how long I ran. Long enough that my lungs burned and my legs went numb. Long enough that I stopped hearing footsteps behind me, because the only sound was my own ragged breathing and crashing footfalls. I broke through a tree line and almost sobbed with relief. A road, an actual paved road. I staggered onto the asphalt, looking both ways for any sign of traffic, any sign of civilization. The sun was nearly down now, maybe 30 minutes of light left. That's when I saw the sign. Cherokee National Forest, Citico Creek Trailhead, 2 miles. I'd made it, almost made it. I started jogging down the road, checking over my shoulder every few seconds. The forest pressed close on both sides, but it was just forest. Normal trees, normal shadows. A vehicle engine rumbled in the distance, getting louder. Headlights appeared around the bend, a pickup truck. I waved my arms frantically, jumping into the middle of the road. The truck slowed, stopped. An older man rolled down his window, eyeing me with concern. "You all right, son? You look like hell." "I need help," I gasped. "Something in the forest people are missing. I have IDs." "Whoa, slow down." He put the truck in park, started to open his door. "You need to get to a hospital." "No, we need to call the police. There's evidence. Missing people. Something out there hunting. I stopped because the man's expression had changed. His concern melted into something else, something that made my blood run cold. He smiled. "How far'd you make it?" he asked quietly. "Before you found the camp." I took a step back. "Most don't get that far," he continued, getting out of the truck slowly. "Most turn back at the first carving, or they run in circles until they collapse. But you got all the way to the camp. Stay away from me. That's impressive, really." He tilted his head, studying me. "It'll be pleased." I ran. Behind me, I heard him call out, "You can't leave. None of you leave." I'm writing this from inside a drainage culvert under the road, about half a mile from where I left that truck. I can hear him driving slowly, back and forth, searching. It's full dark now. My phone battery is at 4%. No signal out here, but I'm going to try to send this to my brother as soon as I get even one bar. If you're reading this, I made it far enough to upload it somewhere. The IDs are in my front left pocket. 3 of them. Proof. I can see flashlight beams playing across the road above me. And in the forest behind the culvert, I hear the whistling again. But it's different now. There are multiple sources. 3, maybe 4 distinct whistlers, all using the same 3-note pattern, coordinating. I'm not being hunted by one thing. I'm being hunted by several. And I just realized the man in the truck never asked which forest I came from. Never asked how I got on this road. He already knew. They've been doing this for a long time. The whistling is getting closer. I can smell that rot stench again, seeping into the culvert. My hands are shaking so hard I can barely type. I'm going to make a run for the trailhead parking lot in exactly 5 minutes. It's my only chance. If my car is still there, if I can just reach it. Wait. Oh God. I just felt something touch my foot in the dark. Something that isn't wearing shoes. The whistling just stopped. All of it, at once, and in the sudden silence, I hear breathing, right next to my ear. Battery 81%. I'm alive. I don't know how, but I'm alive. My phone died in that culvert before I could finish the last entry. What happened next? I'm only writing this now, 3 days later, from a hospital room in Knoxville. Because the detective assigned to my case says I need to document everything while it's fresh. Fresh. Like any of this will ever not be fresh in my mind. The thing breathing next to me in the culvert wasn't human. When I felt that touch on my foot, I did the only thing my brain could process. I exploded forward out of the drainage pipe, not caring what was waiting outside. I'd rather face the man with the truck than be trapped in the dark with whatever had crawled in behind me. I came out rolling, scrambled to my feet, and ran straight into the forest on the opposite side of the road. Behind me, I heard the man yelling, "You're just making it worse. It's not personal, kid. This is how it feeds." I didn't stop, couldn't stop. The woods on this side were different, newer growth, thinner trees. I could see moonlight breaking through the canopy. I picked the brightest path and ran toward it like my life depended on it. Because it did. I don't know how long I ran. Time stopped meaning anything. But I remember sounds, branches cracking behind me, that rattling laugh echoing from multiple directions, and underneath it all, a low humming that seemed to vibrate up through the ground itself. Then I saw lights through the trees, not flashlights, steady lights, building lights. I crashed through the underbrush and found myself in someone's backyard, a small cabin with a porch light on, a pickup in the driveway. I pounded on the back door, screaming, not caring how I looked or sounded. An elderly woman opened the door with a shotgun already raised. "Please," I gasped. "Please, something's chasing me. I need to call the police." She looked past me at the tree line, and her face went pale. She grabbed my shirt and yanked me inside, slamming and locking the door. "How'd you get out here?" she demanded. "I was hiking. Sitico Creek Trail. Something's out there. Multiple somethings. There's a man helping them, driving a blue pickup, dent in the passenger door." I stared at her. "You know him. Everyone around here knows about them." She moved to the window, peering out through the curtains. "We don't talk about it with outsiders. Not anymore. Not after what happened to the ones who tried." "What are you talking about?" She turned to face me, and I saw genuine fear in her eyes. "How many symbols did you see?" "The circle ones. 2, maybe 3. "Jesus," she crossed herself. "You were marked. They were hurting you." "Hurting me where?" "To the camp. That's the collection point. Everyone who's marked ends up there eventually." She grabbed her phone from the counter. "Once you're marked, you're supposed to," she stopped, shook her head. "It doesn't matter. You got out. That's what matters." She called the police while I collapsed into a chair at her kitchen table. My legs were shaking so badly I couldn't stand anymore. 2 sheriff's deputies arrived 20 minutes later. They took my statement, looked at the IDs I'd taken from the camp, and exchanged glances that told me they knew more than they were saying. "We'll need you to show us where you found these," one of them said. "I can't. I don't even know where I was. The trail markers were all destroyed or covered. We'll have Forest Service guide you back in tomorrow." "I'm not going back in there." The deputy's expression hardened. "Son, these are missing people. If there's evidence, then you go find it. I gave you the location of the trailhead. I told you about the camp with the tents and the IDs. Send your own people." They tried to push, but the woman, her name was Sarah, told them to leave me alone for the night. They agreed reluctantly and said they'd send a search team at first light. Sarah let me sleep on her couch. I didn't actually sleep, just lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the house settle and waiting for the whistling to start again. Around 3 a.m., Sarah came out of her bedroom with a box of old newspaper clippings. "You should see these," she said quietly. They dated back to 1987. hikers gone missing on that trail system, always in October, always solo hikers or small groups. 15 documented disappearances over 36 years. The articles stopped running after 2003. Why did they stop reporting on it? I asked. Because the Forest Service threatened to pull funding from the county if we kept publicizing it. Bad for tourism. Bad for the local economy. She pointed to one article from 1994. That was my nephew, Daniel. He was 23. The photo showed a young man with Sarah's eyes, smiling at the camera in hiking gear. "I'm sorry," I whispered. They found his ID at that camp 7 years later. Just his ID, nothing else. She collected the clippings, putting them carefully back in the box. Whatever's out there, it's been hunting for a long time. And there are people who help it, who feed it. I don't know if they're forced to or if they choose to, but they keep the trails maintained. They mark the trees. They make sure it always has what it needs. Why hasn't anyone stopped them? She laughed bitterly. Who's going to believe it? You tell me right now, if you hadn't experienced it yourself, would you believe any of this? I couldn't answer that. The search team went out the next morning. I refused to go with them. And after seeing the state I was in, covered in scratches, dehydrated, barely coherent, they didn't push it. They found the camp, all 4 tents, the fire pit, and exactly 73 ID cards hanging from the trees. But when they tried to follow the trail markers back to the main path, they got turned around. 3 separate attempts, 3 different experienced guides, and none of them could navigate back to the same location. On the 4th attempt, one of the rangers reported hearing whistling. They suspended the search pending further investigation. The detective assigned to my case, a woman named Martinez, came to see me on the 2nd day. She brought the 3 IDs I'd recovered. "We've confirmed these identities," she said. All 3 were reported missing in the Cherokee National Forest between 2018 and 2022. And all 3, she paused, choosing her words carefully. All 3 reported seeing symbols carved into trees before they disappeared. Their last check-ins mentioned feeling followed. So you believe me? I believe something is happening in those woods that we don't understand. She pulled out a folder, showed me photos. We found the blue pickup, registered to a Thomas Brennan, lives about 8 miles from where you emerged. When we went to question him, the house was empty. Looked like he left in a hurry. He said it feeds. That's what he told me. Martinez nodded slowly. We're bringing in a specialized team. FBI consultants who handle unusual cases. But I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Okay. Did you see it? The thing that was hunting you. Did you actually see what it looked like? I thought about that moment in the culvert, the breathing next to my ear, the touch on my foot. No, I lied. It was too dark. But that wasn't true. In the half-second before my phone died, the screen had lit up one last time. And in that flash of light. I'd seen what was in the culvert with me. I'm not going to describe it here. I can't. Every time I try to remember the details, my mind skitters away like touching a hot stove. The human brain has defense mechanisms, ways of protecting itself from things it can't process. All I'll say is this: it was tall enough that it had to crouch in that culvert. It had too many joints in its limbs. And when it smiled at me in that moment of light, it had my brother's face, not similar to my brother's face. My brother's actual face, like a mask stretched over something that wasn't the right shape underneath. Martinez is letting me go home tomorrow. She says they'll call if they need anything else, but her tone suggests they won't find anything. The search has been quietly called off. The news is reporting it as inconclusive findings and possible animal predation. Sarah visited me yesterday, brought me the box of newspaper clippings. "Keep these," she said, "so you remember you're not crazy. So you remember Daniel and all the others." I'm looking at them now, spread across my hospital bed. 36 years of disappearances. 73 IDs recovered. And I'm sure there are more that were never found. I've been thinking about what Sarah said, about people who help feed it, about the man in the blue pickup who knew exactly where to find me, who knew about the camp, about how the trail markers were destroyed so systematically, about how the Forest Service keeps finding reasons not to close that trail permanently. This morning, Martinez came by one last time. She stood in my doorway for a long moment before speaking. "The 3 IDs you recovered," she finally said. "We contacted the families, gave them closure at least. That's something. But I pulled the records on every disappearance in that forest for the last 40 years. All 73 people from the camp, plus others." She stepped into the room, closed the door. They all have something in common. Every single one. What? They all reported it to someone. Ranger station, police, Park Service. They all said something felt wrong before they disappeared. They all asked for help. My blood ran cold, and in every case, they were told it was safe, told they were overreacting, told to continue their hike. She pulled out a piece of paper, set it on my bed. "This is Thomas Brennan's employment history. Want to guess where he worked from 1985 to 2003? I looked at the paper. My hands started shaking. "He was a park ranger," I whispered, "for 18 years. He retired right when the newspaper articles stopped running." Martinez picked up the paper. "I'm not supposed to tell you this. Officially, this conversation never happened. But you should know we found something else at his property. A journal, detailed records of everyone he helped. Helped, that's the word he used. He wrote that he was helping them transition, that it was the old way, and he was keeping the balance." She met my eyes. "There are 12 current employees of the Cherokee National Forest who worked with Brennan during his tenure. 12 people who might know exactly what's happening in those woods. You have to arrest them. On what charge? Writing creepy journal entries. She shook her head. We can't prove anything. We can't even find Brennan. And even if we could, she gestured at the window, at the mountains visible in the distance. That thing is still out there, and I don't think it's something we can arrest. She left after that. I'm being discharged this afternoon, but there's something I haven't told anyone. Something I found in my jacket pocket this morning when the nurse returned my belongings. A small circle of bones. I know I scattered the one from the cave. I know I never picked it up. But somehow it's here, in my pocket. The same pattern, the same arrangement. I showed it to the nurse and asked how it got there. She looked at me confused and said my pockets were empty when they checked me in. But it's here now. And last night, while I was trying to sleep, I heard it. Very faint, very distant. 3 short whistles, coming from somewhere outside my hospital window. I'm going home to my apartment in Nashville today. I'm going to lock every door and window. I'm going to tell my brother everything, and I'm never going hiking again. But I keep thinking about what Martinez said, about how everyone who disappeared had asked for help first, about how they were told to keep going. I asked for help. I got out, but the man in the truck said something that I can't stop replaying in my head. You can't leave. None of you leave. I'm looking at the bone circle on my bedside table right now, and I'm wondering, did I actually get out? Or did they just let me go?